Longhorn Gaming is a community, a place for people to come together and play video games, make friends, find a family, find a place to belong on campus. Our esports teams, pushing further and representing Longhorn Gaming and UT Austin as a whole to the wider collegiate esports community.
Esports is just any video game that's experienced in a competitive aspect to any degree. We're not just talking about like crazy huge production things like that with millions of dollars of prize money. I think esports is also like, you go down to your local Smash tournament, or you find some online portal and enter a tournament with random people. When I was involved in Longhorn Gaming, we were still putting down some roots because the university hadn't given us too much recognition yet. So for us, it was really about, okay, how can we gain that legitimacy in the eyes of UT, which is, a Southern athletics first kind of school, but also make sure that we keep catering to everybody at the university who plays games in any capacity as well. So, doing events for any and all games, but also starting to collect those numbers and say, hey, look, this is a real thing. You guys should be investing. So back then, kind of our central communication method was literally a Facebook group, which sounds alien now, but then everybody had Facebook. So that was kind of one of our central hubs of like disseminating information and announcing events, because you could do events on Facebook and all that kind of stuff too. We did a lot of like LAN party kind of events. So we'd rent, one of the bigger auditoriums on campus and just tell everyone, all right, bring your laptops, drag your desktops out here, your consoles, whatever. Let's get together and just play games all day. We didn't officially have wireless or like internet access for a lot of our events, so we kind of had to shoehorn our way around that.
Oh shit!
Oh, and remember, if you want to block, you gotta hold the opposite direction you're facing.
How do you run?
I think it's tap forward. Yeah, tap forward.
Another challenge was differentiating between like, okay, are we going to cater to like the more casual side of things, community? Are we going to cater to esports, like super competitive stuff? Are we going to try to bridge that gap? Should we consider splitting into organizations? Like that was one of the big questions then as well. And I think uniquely challenging to kind of my generation was also a lot of the founders of Longhorn Gaming, they had all just graduated and they were all moving on to bigger and better things, and good for them. But that sort of left us in a little bit of a vacuum of like, okay, well, they did all these cool things. How do we follow that? How do we build on that? And how do we make sure we don't backslide now that we don't have all of that seasoned leadership?
Biggest thing is always interpersonal relationships and making sure stuff gets done on time. I mean, we're all full-time students, and so we also all have other stuff that we need to do. We've got a bit of organizational stuff that needs to be dealt with, but other than that, realistically, we're actually in a pretty good spot. The big thing is looking for ways to raise more money so we can put on bigger and better events.
That's what I was scoring. Yeah, that's 1 more.
And this is to boost. So B to boost. Yes?
Yeah.
Technically, my first introduction to the organization was through a roommate I had in my sophomore year, I think. We were playing League together in our dorm in like 2011 or something. And he kind of mentioned offhand that he heard there was a gaming organization on campus. And I was like, oh, cool, we should go. And so, we found out when the next meeting was. And, that day came up and he was like, no, you know what? I just want to stay in my room and play games instead, but you can go. So I went on my own and like didn't know anybody and almost didn't come back. But I finally talked to a couple people about League when I was there, and I made some friends and was just convinced enough to come back in those early days that I finally did.
I would have described myself as a gamer starting at 7, 8. I've been playing video games for a really long time. And to me, gaming is just an integral part of my life. I probably play about 20 to 30 hours of video games a week, if not more. It's how I've met almost all of my friends. I mean, to me, it's a very big part of my life.
Alienware Pro Lab mascot.
When I first came to UT, it was 2020, it was COVID year. Everything was online, so I was like, all right, I'll look. Surely UT has a gaming org that's probably got a Discord server, since that's where gamers hang out. And I looked on HornsLink, found Longhorn Gaming, found the Discord server, and I became the most active member in the Discord.
Eli Phillips. Is there an Eli Phillips in the audience? Yeah, I bet you do. Free stuff is absolutely.
In terms of like less logistical ways of being connected as a community, we really pushed our family system to kind of help make sure people had a core group of like friends who they recognized at all of the events.
You know, I met quite a few cool people, some people who showed me around campus, and then following onto that, we had the family system.
You know, we made sure to try to do some community-based events as well. So families would kind of do their own social events, but we'd also have the big LANs and the watch parties where we just all get as many people as possible together. Imagine a generation from now when all of the young people are still presumably playing games, but I am 60 and still playing games. So like most people alive are playing games. Like that scope is something we've never really seen before in esports, but it's in the future. And so I think it's important to think of esports right now as important because that's the future.